Frankie, I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. And sometimes that's a good thing because there's so much positive things to discuss, but it does feel like it's been a while since we've done a podcast like that. But there was so much that went wrong last night. I genuinely don't know where to start. The only thing I will begin with is I feel really sad this morning, like really sad. Last night was, I don't know how to explain it. It just felt different. I've seen us get beat 101 times before, but to lose in that manner, my word, it was just shocking. Everything was shocking. The starting lineup, the subs, the commitment from the players, or lack of commitment from the players, or lack of attacking threat, the defensive side of it. Everything was bad. Everything was wrong. But I want to open the floor to yourself, really, and say, take it away. What have you got to say about last night's showing?
Yeah, well, I guess the place to start is the starting lineup. That was where I think much of the hope and belief started to dwindle, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest. I think I didn't speak to a single person who felt like that's. And what was really interesting, Geo, is that we see the starting lineup in terms of the players, not the formation. But it got even worse when we
Yeah.
saw how he was playing those
I
players.
100% agree with that. 100%.
So it was just, it went from really confused, couldn't really understand why he picked those players, to now how he's playing them, I'm even more confused. So, and we said beforehand, and I actually said this to a few people when, around the time the lineup was coming out, and I so he's got to earn his money tonight because he's got a few decisions he's got to make. This is where you look to your manager to make a decision. We haven't got much in terms of striker options. We discussed it through the week on what we could do. Is it Callum Marshall? Is it Callum Wilson? Is it that we play Paqueta up there? And I'd always had that niggling feeling that he would go with that Paqueta thing that for whatever reason managers seem to want to try, but never once has ever worked out in any way positive by him playing him down the middle. So I can't get my head around it. And it was just, I just felt like this is the time for Nuno to show us what Nuno's all about. And while I was confused, at this point in time, you had to have a little bit of belief in the man. You had to think, okay, this is the first time we've seen you play around with the starting lineup. First time we've seen you do something a bit different in terms of formation. So, okay, why it seems strange, I'm going to run with it. It didn't take long for it to become very, very clear that it wasn't working. And you know me, I like Mourinho. I've always liked Mourinho. And one thing I love about Mourinho is that whenever he started a game and it's so glaringly obvious it's wrong, he's not afraid to make a change. Whether that he's made changes in the first 10 minutes of matches before, he's made changes after 20 minutes, half an hour. That first half, that goal was coming and coming and coming. And why we felt like we had to wait till half time to change something, I don't really know, because you basically conceded that they're going to score by half time, before half time, and you were going to go in behind. Any manager who's got any salt, any manager who, has got anything about him, had to watch that game and turn around and say, I've got this so very, very wrong. And to try and stop us going in behind, I need to make a change now. On the 20-minute mark, half-hour mark, to just leave it as it was, we were always going to go in, losing. So really, really frustrating. And then it just didn't get any better after that. He then starts to make his changes. I didn't really understand them. Go into a back five, I didn't see how that helped us, to be perfectly honest. And I know some people say back three. For me, it was a back five. If we've got that back three, but the two fullbacks were really kicking on and there was space to exploit down there and they was getting success, but they weren't. They were kind of penned back. I don't remember the youth once getting to the byline and putting a cross in. Not once. So it was a solid back five, took all the sting out of us. While the first half was poor, we had odd moments where Bowen had that little pot shot and the keeper got down low and saved it. We had once he made those changes, we had no threat whatsoever So you're never going to get back in this game and win it. And I just felt like I had said to you that I hope this James Ward-Prowse thing isn't a bitter old man having an issue from the past and continuing that now he's gone to a new club. Well, I'm telling you now, there's plenty of players out there who deserve the James Ward-Prowse treatment. And he now needs to do exactly the same with them as what he'd done with James Ward-Prowse. He needs to make an example of them. He needs to shake this thing up, because I saw last night a side that is absolutely doomed for relegation, a banging trouble, and I don't see any character, any fight. I don't see any way that we get some spirit in us to get ourselves out of this issue. And he needs something drastic quite quickly, actually, because if he doesn't, then we're banging trouble.
Yeah, I was fuming last night, but I'm calm this morning. I'm the other side of calm. I've gone from one strong emotion of anger and frustration to another strong emotion of sadness, to be honest with you. I feel defeated this morning. I feel really defeated. And when I'm looking back now with a calmer mindset, and sometimes I can, during the time I get frustrated, and then the day after the game, I can look back and go, all right, I get why he did this. It didn't work, but I get it from his perspective. I don't last night. When the lineup come out, I assumed Scars was left back and Walker-Peters was right back. But even with that assumption, I still wasn't keen. I thought it felt like an unnecessary risk. And I know it'll be, well, he worked on the training ground with him in 2 weeks. And whilst I say it, and I promise you this is the last time I'll say it, with a little bit of tongue in cheek, there's also a serious element here. In training in the last 2 weeks, they were defending against Callum Wilson. You can't replicate Thiago, Tara, and Shada on the training ground because we don't have players that good. We don't have players that quick. So they probably did look all right in training. They probably looked quite comfortable because we're up against players not good enough to be in the starting 11 at West Ham. They had the striker who Nuno hasn't played in 3 games. He hasn't even given a minute to, and 2 of the games was screaming out for a striker to come on. I'm not including Arsenal because I don't think Wilson would have made a difference against Arsenal. But away to Everton, folks was done, and I thought that game was made for Wilson. Last night, you should have taken Wilson on at half-time. We needed a striker, and there was only 2 of them on the bench. You didn't bring on either of them. But in 2 games now, where the game state was made for Callum Wilson, he's not had a minute. So in training, we're defending against him for 2 weeks and going, oh yeah, the defence is sorted. But even looking back now with Scarles right back, I just don't get what he's thinking. I don't get his thinking at all. There was nothing obvious in or out of possession. At least if we were going down the right, cutting it back to Scarles, and he was whipping it in with his left foot, you go, okay, that's why we're doing it. But that didn't exist. There was nothing. There was absolutely no reason or justification to say this is why Scarles is playing right back. I feel really sorry for him, actually, Scarles, because he's still a young player trying to make it at West Ham, and it's difficult to make it in your best position in the Premier League, right? So to then do it on the complete opposite flank up against Shada, you're asking a lot of, and I don't think he was terrible, by the way. This isn't a criticism of all his Scars. I actually thought him and Walker-Peters could feel a little bit pissed off for going off at half-time. Say, hang on a minute, you're taking us off. Have you seen the 2 defenders in between us? What are we meant to do with those 2 playing centre-back? I thought the centre-backs were the problem, not the full-backs. But I just don't get what he was doing. And you look at midfield with Irving and Souček. I've not seen anyone ever say they want to see Souček and Irving in midfield. None. I actually thought, here's the thing. If we played Brentford the week after Arsenal, so there was no international break, we played Arsenal, a weekend later we played Brentford, I don't think he plays that team. I think he sticks with Wan-Bissaka, Mavropanos, Diouf. I think he sticks with Magassa. I think the only reason he's changed is because he's had that 2 weeks on the training ground with them. I think he's overthought it. I think he's put way too much stock in those players. And some suggested maybe he's got one eye on Leeds. I'm not buying that. If this was Liverpool away, fair enough. If he's sort of half writing it off, saying, well, I'm going to keep my better players for that game against Leeds because we need to win there. But this was a very winnable fixture last night against. We can't afford to be writing off games against teams like that. We can't afford to rotate. We've got to play our best 11 in every single game this season because every game is going to be vital. We can't do what the better teams do, which is rest 1 or 2 players and still win. We play our strongest 11 and we'll probably still lose. So I ain't having it. It's one eye on Leeds. And here's the thing. He's now got, at best, 3 training sessions before that game against Leeds to fix it. He's had 2 weeks, and that's what he's come up with. He's now got 3 to fix it and repair it. And he really needs to. And if we win at Leeds, which I don't think we will, and I don't think any West Ham fan is going to predict a win, but if we do, it sort of doesn't quite get us back to where we need to be, but it might just take the sting out of it right now. But the thing last night was his lineup was wrong. His subs at halftime were alarming. Why he thought that was the solution, I do not know. And then his subs during the second half was also alarming. Do you know sometimes, Frankie, we'll have images, good or bad, etched on our brain to do with West Ham? Right, if I was to say to you, Paul Di Canio, you'll think of the volley or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You've just got it, right? I think there was one last night that's going to stay with me for a long time, and I've got it here. Do you want to see it?
Go on, show us.
This.
Yeah.
Jared Bowen is running back into central midfield because look at this point, Lucas Paqueta was the furthest player forward. So we're taking Irving off and put Marshall on, who went up front. Paqueta dropped in next to Souček. Well, there's one of Brentford's central midfielders. Thomas Souček's about 20 yards behind him, like towards their goal. Look at that. Look at that image. Look at what is going on. And that happened on a regular basis in the second half. The first half, the midfield weren't great. They were there in numbers, but they weren't really doing much. The second half, they weren't even there in numbers. There was just nothing. Damsgaard was just running down the middle of the pitch. Jordan Henderson looked like he was 25 years old last night, strolling about that pitch. I honestly feel, and I still feel like this, I've just watched a manager who knew he was ready to get sacked if he lost last night, and I feel like I've just watched a team play knowing the manager's ready to get sacked if they lose last night. It felt like the end of a manager's tenure. It's his third game.
Yeah, Joe, my boy was singing. Not from what I said. This was totally off his own back. You're getting sacked in the morning. That's what he started singing during the game. So even he's watching it, going, "How bad is this?" And has resulted to you're getting sacked in the morning. That's a 7-year-old doing that. So it was like you said. There were players out there who looked like totally void. Yeah, they didn't want to be there. Void of belief. Void of any sort of belief in what they were doing. And like you said, that normally reflects on a manager who's at the end of his reign. It's normally when a new manager comes in, a new manager bounce, you have all this thing and you start to get their heads up. And even if they lose a few games, but they still look like they're on the same page. They still look like they're working towards something.
You'll see it at Nottingham Forest. Sean Dyche has gone in there. They play Porto on Thursday night. You'll see it on Thursday night. I'm quite confident you'll see those Forest players come out, put in a performance, say, it's not us. It was Ange Postecoglou. It's not us. We're going to fight for this manager. I reckon you'll see a reaction at Forest very, very quickly under Dyche. And I think this is why I'm really worried, Frankie, because under Potter, had we retained Potter for the entire season, I think we would have got relegated, right? But the safety net, if you like, was we can sack him and we can bring someone else in, and maybe that will be enough. So we've rolled the dice. Nuno's come in, and I'll be honest, I'm not going to change my mind of what I've said. When we appointed Nuno, I thought, there we go. We've got a manager who's not out of work because of poor performance, which is unusual. Most managers out of work are due to poor results and they've been sacked. So I felt like we got a little bit lucky that he was available at that point, and he's come in. I was happy that we appointed him. I was happy with what we've seen away to Everton after 2 days in the job. Thought that was a reaction. We got that little bit of a reaction. That was our new manager bounce, a draw away to Everton. But the reason I've been quite optimistic that we wouldn't get relegated is because of Nuno. It's down to having Nuno here. So my hope was almost 100% in Nuno camp. Like, this guy's going to come in, he's going to make us more organised, he's going to make us a better team, he's going to get the best out of some of our players, and we're going to do just enough to stay up. That was my hope. But last night, it's almost shredded that hope completely because of his team selection. And I appreciate so far in this podcast, it feels like the players are getting a free pass and they don't deserve one. They're not going to get one. I can assure you, when I do the player ratings with Gonzo, no one's getting a good mark here. They're all getting crap marks. They were pathetic last night. So it's not just the players, but it's also, I know it's only his third game, but I'm not willing to say, well, you don't judge the manager yet. You don't judge his entire tenure, but you can call it game by game. And I'm calling it last night. He got everything wrong, absolutely everything. And I do think, had we played that game a week before, we might have been better. He might have just stuck with the team he already had. He had to make two big calls last night. Who went up front, and are you changing midfield? And then when I say the midfield, I mean the central midfield. He didn't need to change the defence. It was okay. We got beat by Arsenal, but it was all right. It wasn't the worst defence I've ever seen against. It was fine against Everton. He didn't need to change it. He made 3 changes, and we got a lot worse off the back of it. And then he tried to rectify at half time, and we got even worse. So my hope was pinned largely on Nuno coming in and getting us through to the January transfer window. Just, 19 games, January the 1st, where we'll have played 19 games. We've maybe got 17, 18 points on board. So we're in touch and distance. We're maybe in the bottom 3, but we're not out of it. We're in the race. We're there. A couple of good signings, we might be all right. I thought if we can get there, we'll be okay. But after last night's performance, Frankie, I don't know. I'm just struggling for any hope at the minute. Any hoping. I think sometimes I get reassurance in more positive West Ham fans, because some of my friends are more positive than I am generally. There's a lot of them more negative than I am as well. But the positive ones can sometimes pick me up a little bit. And also some of my friends that are not West Ham fans can also offer a little bit of reassurance. Yeah, you'll be all right. When we hired Nuno, they were saying, oh, you'll be fine now. What a good appointment that is. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. They've changed. Since last night, the messaging going, oh, these are fucked. Even the positive people are no longer positive. The neutrals are no longer positive. I've got no reassurance anywhere. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense, and I couldn't agree more. Just before I go on to that, one player I think doesn't deserve a good score, but I think he doesn't deserve a bad one, and that was Somerville. I thought he ran his heart out. I thought he really did try. And do you know what? He was the only player who got frustrated. I loved to see that reaction that he had when he smashed that ball down, because he was so angry with how things are going. He's actually the only person who showed that he cared out there. Yeah. And he did give everything. He ran and ran and ran. And while he didn't have a good performance, and I put that down a lot to how bad the performances were around him, to be perfectly honest, he was a trier out there, and the only trier. So I can say that, I don't think he deserves to be criticised, but all the other players do.
Yeah.
Even down to Bowen. I thought there was one moment in the second half where the ball was in the air and Wan-Bissaka went in for a 50-50 to win the header with one of their players, and Bowen just stood and watched. And once the ball ricocheted into the little bit of space, they ended up winning possession and going forward. And I thought, there was only one place, if Wan-Bissaka wins the ball, that the ball can go, and that's where it went. But Bowen couldn't be bothered to move into that space. He just stood and watched. That isn't the performance of a captain who's trying to get his bit between his teeth and drag a team out of the situation they're in. There's a lot of concerns that I've got right now. And actually, a lot of those opinions that had no foundation, like, we've got too good a squad to go down. Well, we haven't. The players are awful. And some of them, I mean, the money we've spent when you go through it, on the standard of some of those players, they're just not good enough and nowhere near worth the price tag we've paid for them, which is always a really bad sign. And stuff like that gets you relegated. The fact that Nuno will not be the perfect manager moving forward, but will do for now and keep us safe, that's gone. That's completely blown up. That isn't the case. And he's very capable of taking us down. So there's some things in there that people had these sorts of opinions on. I think that's all been blown out of the water. And I think now we see the reality that the bigger picture that we've got right now is, if you're looking through that squad for anyone or character or any reason that could get you out of this situation, whether it be a player who can get you enough goals, whether it be someone who can stand up and lead this team, whether it be someone who's got battle and fight, I don't see anything, nothing. Not one thing could I turn around to you and say, Gio, I think that's what's going to get us out of trouble. It's a real horrible position. I've been here countless times, and this is setting off every single alarm bell possible of a side that goes and gets herself relegated.
Yeah.
And at the moment, even as a fan, I don't really have any answers, Gio. It's not like I'm looking to our bench and going, well, we should be doing this, or we should be doing that, or what if we did this, or what if we did that? I don't see the answers, and that's the biggest concern for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you've just said there. I completely agree with it. The fact is, I'll tell you, do you want to know how? I wasn't going to say this because I feel ridiculous and deluded for it even entering my brain, right? But late last night, I was thinking, could we sign Craig Dawson and Michael Antonio right now because they're free agents? I was generally got to the point of thinking, could they do a job for us until the end of the season? And I think I shouldn't be thinking like that, though. I shouldn't be questioning. And my answer is no, because I've seen Antonio play for the 21s this season. He wasn't good. But do you know what? The pair of them would have more commitment than what we've seen last night. Dawson would give more than the centre backs that we've seen last night. He might not be as good as them, but can he be any worse? But their attitude, they'd be all right. They'd be good. They'd actually bring that character and that sort of leadership that we're missing. But that's how bad it got last night, Frankie. I was sat there genuinely thinking in my head, could we sign Dawson and Antonio? And I thought, okay, this is crazy. What am I talking about? No, we shouldn't be doing that. And I thought, but should we rule it out? It just sounds ridiculous, and I feel deluded for thinking it. But that's how bad it's got for me, Frankie. I shouldn't be like that. Jordan Henderson just ran the gaff last night. He would walk into our midfield. He would be one of our best players. He'd bring the leadership that we're lacking. He'd bring the composure that we're missing. He'd bring the creativity from the middle that is just non-existent. And it shouldn't be like that, but it is. It is that bad. I completely agree with what you said about Bowen. There's one point when Aka went down the right wing last night, and he went out over to the right touchline, almost got in the way. I thought, wait, get in the box. We need a goal. Like, where's anyone trying to stand up and be counted? Where's someone saying, give the ball to me, I'm going to do something? There isn't any of it. There's nothing. The only slight, and I mean slight positive, Frankie, is he's not going to do that team on Friday night against Leeds, right? He will change it back, and he will make multiple changes. I feel confident he's going to make 5-6 changes. But like you said, normally you would sit here and go, okay, so if he does this, and this, we might get the win. But that's missing. I don't have that either. I'm sat here going, well, what is our strongest 11? Okay, I think this is our strongest 11. You at home right now, you've got what you think is our strongest 11. And then you ask yourself the next question is, will that beat Leeds? And the answer is no. And that's scary, sad, anger-inducing. Insert your emotion there. But it's horrible. It is an absolute horrible feeling.
And actually, Joe, the worst thing that happens is when you get into a position when you win, you still don't get out the bottom three. This is for all the youngsters who haven't really experienced this in recent times, and we've always been doing okay. And this is why we always had that panic of when we was doing okay in Europe, but we could see the Premier League form dipping and stuff like this. It's getting yourself into these positions. I've been through this. And when you get into that bottom three and a win still doesn't get you out of it, and you need 2 or 3 wins to push us, it becomes just so horrible. And I'll tell you one thing that I really want to call out from last night, and another thing that's really wound me up. The post-match interview with Nuno, trying to put the blame on us for some of what happened to those players.
I genuinely haven't seen it. I haven't seen
it.
So
he basically turned around and said, and this won't be quote for quote because I watched it late last night, but the gist of it was that because how concerned the fans were, that concern rubbed off onto the players, and the players then ended up doing things that they wouldn't normally do because they could feel our concern. That's what he said. So some of the poor touches, some of the poor passes, he's putting that down to how concerned the fans felt inside the stadium. I can't buy it. I think to point the finger at us for that performance is an awful thing to do, because I actually don't think, I had concerns that I felt the stadium would feel a bit odd. I don't think it did. I felt at the beginning, the people who were in there sung bubbles quite loudly. They were actually making a bit of noise at kickoff. I don't think it felt weird in there last night. Certainly didn't feel any different to something like a Bournemouth in the Cup on a Tuesday night. It felt pretty normal to me. I don't think that stadium felt toxic or unusual or a bit eerie or anything like that. I felt it was fine. So to do that and say that caused that performance, I don't like it at all. And I think it's actually a really cheap excuse, to be honest. And I really wanted him to actually come out and put it on the players and say, look, you weren't good enough tonight, and that's all down to you. But instead, he's tried to deflect it onto us. And I thought that was bad taste, to be honest.
Yeah, I've avoided it all because I think it would just annoy me further. But that's disappointing to hear, because I would have liked him to have taken 50% of responsibility and put the other 50% on the player. Say, look, I tried something. I've got it massively wrong. I tried to fix it at halftime. I got that wrong as well. I'm not going to make the same mistake on Friday night. Do you know what I mean? Just accept what you've done, but also try and give a little bit of reassurance at the same time, which is that I've identified and I will be fixing it for Friday. You're not going to see Scarles at right back on Friday. Don't worry about it. And I don't think we will. I think we'll see Wan-Bissaka and Juve playing, whether it be fullback or wing back. I don't know. He might go to the back three from the start against Leeds. He's gonna do something, and I feel confident he's going to make some changes. And he's got to look at the middle of the pitch. He can't play Irving. Souček wasn't very good. Paqueta wasn't very good. Fernandes was anonymous again. Played well, half a game against Nottingham Forest, and has been pretty poor since. So he's got some big decisions to make. He made big decisions last night, and he got near enough every single one of them wrong. I would go as far as saying he got them all wrong, but just in case someone said, hey, what about that one? Fair. There might have been one or two half decent ones in there, but I didn't feel like there was. We played well for 10 minutes. I thought the first 10 minutes we did all right. We were moving the ball quickly. There was a bit of energy about us. I don't have the sound on for the game, but I would imagine the fans were responding to that. Corner after corner, that usually gets a bit of a reaction going, come on then, right? You could see your team having to go. But after that, it was just Brentford, and we were getting battered. And I agree with what you said at the very start. He could have made changes, but you don't even have to make substitutes to make changes. I understand why managers are reluctant to make subs in the first half, because as the player coming off, I mean, what a dent to their confidence is already quite low. So subbing someone after half an hour, that's going to be, I'm not sure you can use them in the next game kind of thing. But what he could have done was swap Scarles and Kyle Walker-Peters around for a start. He could have dropped Paqueta back into midfield, put Bowen up front, or put Paqueta on the left where he looked good under Moyes at times, put Fernandes into the number 10, Somerville on the right, and put Bowen up front. He could have done a few different things with the 11 that was on the pitch. He could have changed things to try and shore up a little bit, put an extra body in the middle of the pitch, swap the fullback, just try and get better defensively and say, we can get through to halftime with a clean sheet, good. Then I can rectify, I can make my subs then. But he didn't. He just sort of left us getting battered. And then it was 1-0 and it was 2-0. And yes, it was offside by an inch. Brentford deserved to go 2-0 up before halftime as well. So he got away with it. He got lucky that he was going in at the break at 1-0 down. And when you do that, I don't care what anyone says, you've got a chance. At 1-0 down at halftime, regardless of what's gone on in the first half, it's done now. You've got 15 minutes to fix what's gone wrong, make subs. You get 5 now. 5. I know people remember when there was only 1 sub. I don't remember. I wasn't born back then, but I remember when there was only 3. It's difficult. You've got 5. You can change half your outfield team if you want to in one go. And I always think the first 5-10 minutes after the restart is a reflection of what was just said in the changing room. And it was just a continuation of the first half. We changed players, we changed formation, but the attitude stayed the same. The defense being pissed stayed the same. Having nothing in attack stayed the same. It was almost like the players had just swapped ends. Half time, all right, we're down this end now. And there was no team, there was no pep talk, there was nothing. There was absolutely no reaction from us, and that is alarming. He's got West Ham fans and his coaching staff now. Let them do it if you have to. Let them do the team talk, because at least they could hopefully put a rocket up the players. But then again, if the players won't respond to that, then what can they do to some extent? I think the performance from the players and the attitude from the players suggests that they just don't care. They don't care. Why would they? They get paid their tens of thousands of pounds a week, regardless of if we win or lose. Callum Wilson's skint. He's not come off the bench in the last 3 games. He's got no money. He can't pay his rent. Anything you'd like to add, Frankie, before we depart?
No, there are things there that need big decisions on, Gio. I think we need some big calls. I think we've got to that stage now. I think we are in a crunch time. If you're not going to play Callum Wilson ever because you resent giving him the 100 grand, or that the fact that he just isn't good enough, just get him out of the squad. Just remove him. Like, we see those boys, and look, I will call it out for what it is. I don't think Marshall looks anywhere near ready for Premier League football right now. That's my reality of it. But I do think there are some boys in that youth team that are worth a shot. And one of them, especially with the midfield how it is, if Mangasa and Potts have no chance of getting on the pitch, because how Potts didn't get on that pitch last night with the midfield how it was, I can't understand. What other circumstance can you take if last night wasn't good enough for Potts, or a situation for Potts to come on? When is he going to come on? If he's no good, get Mahamadou Kante into that first team squad, get him playing around them, and maybe he's someone that you could bring on. I feel like I'm a bit done with having these options and them just not ever going to potentially see the football pitch. We actually need options right now. I think last night screamed out for it. And the fact we resorted to Souček, Irving and Guido Rodriguez is a real problem for me. If that Mahamadou Kante can't give what Guido Rodriguez gives, then I don't understand.
Then you shouldn't be in under 21, then, should he? You shouldn't be at the club full stop.
Nope, exactly that. And I've seen him play, and we need legs, and he's got them. He's athletic. He's got everything that we're screaming out for in the midfield. He's got it round him. So, look, we're not able to sign Nupo. We've got to work with what we got right now. Like,
you can get Dawson Antonio.
Well, there you go. We could. And Gio, as much as it sounds crazy, it isn't as mad an idea as it sounds on the surface, because, like you say, at the end of the day, Antonio will put himself about. He will try and hold up a football. We watched him in that game for the under-21s, and he didn't look good, but you would still think he would give us more than what we had last night. So I just feel like we need to make some big calls. I feel like he needs to get a grip of it sharp. I feel like he needs to make an example of a few people as well. Last night didn't feel like that. If he'd played Skulls because Wan-Bissaka had been really poor and nowhere near at it. And in fact, this isn't a reflection on Skulls, because I thought Skulls tried really hard last night. You could see I think you could see the pressure on him almost. You could see the weight, and he was so nervous about making a mistake, but he really put in as much effort and energy into it as he could. But I think the one that really stood out for me was when Wan-Bissaka come on, we looked so much more comfortable on that right-hand side. So much more comfortable. So that is how wrong he's got it. So I think he needs to really show us something against Leeds. I think, like I said, with the James Ward-Prowse situation, I think he's got to show that he is this big character that we thought Nuno was. I always thought Nuno was this no-nonsense, tell it how it is man. And instead, last night, I got an excuse man. And I didn't think that's what Nuno was. So we need no excuses. We need him to go and get a grip of things. We need him to shake things up big time. I can see a great escape needed on the cards. I can see us going into January and really having to go and... The board will scramble come January. I think they're going to be in a desperate situation, and I think they're going to have to go out there and find someone who can single-handedly, because I don't think you can... Well, we can't replace the whole team. But I think you've got to find someone who single-handedly can give so much to a team that it gets us out of trouble. Whether that's an Arnautovic type character, whatever that looks like, we almost need a magician. We need a pie, someone who can, at the blink of an eye, change a game.
In 2020, we signed Bowen and Souček, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's the problem is, and I can't believe how sort of I've gone from feeling quite comfortable to feeling quite confident we're fucked off the back of. Well, it's not just one performance, is it? But that was alarming last night because it was Nuno. If it was Potter, it would just be a continuation, and I would have been quite confident we're going down for most of the season so far. But because Nuno came in, it was almost like a little bit of a reset for me. And I'm worried that we won't even get to January. Like, we'll get to January, obviously, but I think we'll be 8 points behind whoever's 17th. But we can't spend money then. We're probably going to go down. So we're going to have to start preparing for life in the Championship. And I think Nuno's job right now, I genuinely think it is just to get us to January and be at most 3 points behind whoever's 17th. I think even if we are, and this is wild, but I'm genuinely saying if we are in the bottom three, but we're only 3 points behind 17th, I'd almost see that as not a success, but as we've got a chance here because we've now got a month to bring in players and we've got to get it right and we've got to spend big. But the problem is every other team will be trying to spend money in January to stay up and we'll be competing for the same players. I don't think Ivan Toney is going to be available, but it's a good example to throw out here. If someone like him was available and we go, oh, we'll have him, not only will Leeds United say, oh, yeah, we're coming in, we're going to outbid West Ham, and before you know it, you're paying 10 million over his price because you're trying to outbid each other. But you might find that Spurs also go, actually, we're going to have him because we want to get Champions League football and stuff. It's January. I think January is going to be a wild month. I think this is going to be one of the craziest winter transfer windows we've seen in the Premier League because there's going to be a title race, there's going to be a Champions League race, there's going to be a European football race, and there's going to be a relegation battle all going on at the same time. I think most teams are going to be looking to strengthen. Usually you get one or two cut adrift by January, so they tend not to spend money. So we'll just keep our powder dry. We're going down. It is what it is. You might find that in January, the team that's 20th spend 20, 30, 40 million because they think they can stay up. I think we're in for a busy winter window. We've got to be prepared for it. And here's the thing. Some of the clubs that are in and around us have got directors of football, have got good scouting departments. We don't have those things. We can't even prepare for the January transfer window because there's no one in the right department to get ready to prepare for the January transfer window. We're going to be saying to Nuno, who is it you want? And then we've got David Sullivan trying to do the bloody deals. And we know what he's like in the transfer windows in January. He likes to wait till the last week so he can save 3 weeks worth of wages. We can't afford that. We need our business lined up on the first. But there's a possibility that when we come round to it, it's almost going to be no point spending money. Anyway, we'll leave it there, Frankie. Thank you very much. Usually these podcasts are quite therapeutic and actually feel better at the end of it. It hasn't worked today. I still feel sad and frustrated and pissed off. And anyway,
the only thing we've got that Leeds is coming in the same week is that there's not too long to wait before we can put it right. So let's hope that he can show us something and that can be our remedy.
We need a bloody win on Friday. We absolutely need a bloody win. I don't think anyone's going to be predicting one. But if we did, it sort of chills things out a little bit. We can still get, I've always said 7 from these 4. We can still get 7, but it's just got a hell of a lot harder because that was one of the better fixtures. We've just got beat and didn't just get beat though, we got battered. I think that's the really alarming thing, Frankie, the attitude, just the way the game went. There was no answers from the manager. Everything that can go wrong in a football match went wrong last night for West Ham. And the worst thing is, it was all self-inflicted. Every single thing was our own fault. It's not like Brentford have turned up and done anything, surprised us. They played how they played all season. They deserved to win, but everything that went wrong for us is our own making. We can't have any complaints. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. You've made it to the end. Thank you. 40 minutes of us rambling on. Please do drop a like on the podcast before you disappear. It's much appreciated. Subscribe to Hammers Chat, myself and Frankie. Catch you in a bit.